Your place is the most impressive thing that I've ever seen someone own. Your garage. I shouldn't say garage because everybody thinks it's a garage.
Well, it's a garage.
You have 12 garages. 12 giant warehouse buildings filled with the most amazing cars I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, there are a couple amazing. A lot of them are just old cars that I like that are kind of fun, that have a good story. If a car's got a good story, I buy it.
I like how you're trying to downplay it, but I'm just telling you.
All right, well, I appreciate it.
As a fellow car nut,
thank you.
Not nearly of your proportion, but I was blown away. That place is insane.
Well, yeah, your video's up right now. People love it. It's almost to 200,000 hits. So.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool. It was cool to be a passenger in my car and have you drive it around.
Have somebody else beat the crap out of your car? What's more fun than that?
How did you get started with such an insane collection? Like, what did you start out with?
I didn't. I used to work at car dealerships when I was a kid. I worked at a Ford dealership. I was in charge of odometer recalibrations. That was my area.
Really?
Well, you know what you used to do? Back in the old days, like a guy would bring a car in, and then the boss would say, I take it, the used car back and just turn back the speedometer. Okay. I remember one guy came in with like a 64 Chevy, and it had like 92,000 miles. So he's making his deal for his new Ford, you know, blah, blah, blah. And we're back there with the drills, spinning it back, you know.
You spun it with a drill?
Yeah. So the guy comes out, he goes, no, give me my car back. Good. Now his car's got 50,000 miles on it. And he drove away, and he went around the block, and he came back with a big smile on his face. Because he knew he had the dealership, because he said, and they gave him what he wanted because we had already turned the clock back.
So you could have caught him and busted him. Like
no,
isn't that like a federal crime?
No, now it is.
I mean, not caught him. I mean, he could have caught you and busted you.
But back in the day, that's used car dealers. It was horrible. It was terrible. I was like, I was a kid. I was like, really? This is what they do?
Jeremy, thanks for coming back again.
Thanks, Joe.
And thanks to you, sir. It's very excited to be here. Very exciting for me to be here to be able to talk to you about your story.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
David, tell everybody who you are and tell everybody your background, please.
Okay, and my name is David Fravor. I served 24 years in the military, enlisted Marine for a couple years. They sent me to Naval Academy. Then I flew for 18 years for the Navy. Literally flew A6s, Hornets, and then Super Hornets. Had every qualification you could get in the airplane, everything, even the stuff they're not doing anymore. So I had NVG, high, low, went to Top Gun, and at the time of the incident that we're going to talk about, I was a commanding officer of VFA 41, the Black Aces.
I've gone through a journey with this whole UFO stuff, from being a full-on true believer to being incredibly skeptical to trying to be open-minded to being more of a believer now than I think I've ever been before. And one of the things that I've always said is the people that I believe, that there's a lot of loony people out there, but the people that I put my trust in are high-level military people like yourself. So when I hear someone like you who has a story that defies logic or defies conventional understanding of how aircrafts work, that's when I sit back and I go, okay, this is a different thing. Because you know, there's always people that are telling you they're psychic, or they can, they sense things, or they're in communication with Bigfoot. There's always loony people out there. But when someone is in the military, someone is trained to fly these how expensive are those jets?
When we had them, they were about $70 million a piece.
Yeah, they don't give those to morons.
Typically not. Some people in my family would probably argue that point, but hey, better lucky than good.
It just seems to me that this is for rational people that want to look at this whole UFO phenomenon objectively. You're the type of person that I want to talk to. So I was very excited to have you in here. So what year was your incident? And you have a very, very famous incident that's corroborated by actual evidence, which is one of the rare ones. What year was it, and where did it take place?
So it was 2004. November 14th. It's really, if you draw San Diego to Ensenada, Mexico, we're about 60 miles off the coast in between the two. We're doing workups, so when we get ready to deploy, this was for the 2005 deployment. We were going at sea for November and December of 2004. So we had been out. I had just taken over the squadron mid-October, so I'd been the CO for a month. So we go out and we're putting the battle group pieces together. So it's not just the air wing, but we're on the carrier. We've got the cruiser. We've got all the support ships out there, and we're going to integrate all the defenses and train as one unit. So the exercise that we're going to do is an air defense exercise where there's good guys, bad guys. They're all from the air wing. So the bad guys today are going to be the Marines, VMFA 232, the Red Devils. So they're going to launch, and they're going to go about 100 miles south of the ship, and we're the good guys, and we call it a 2v2, so it's 2 of us against 2 of them. And we're going to work with the USS Princeton, which is going to be the controller, and they're going to control the blue forces, and then the red guys are going to give us a presentation that they're going to try and intercept so we can stop them from getting up towards a carrier. So that's kind of the training set that we're all good. So the Marines take off first, and they start heading to the south. Now, we have no idea that for 2 weeks, the 2 weeks we've been at sea, they've been tracking these things coming out of the sky. And when I talked to the Princeton controller, he's like up to about a dozen of them. They would come down from above 80,000 feet. They'd drop down to about 20,000 feet. They'd hang out, and then they'd go straight back up after about 3 or 4 hours.
Now, when you say they've been tracking them, who specifically?
This is the USS. The Princeton was tracking them. They saw them on the Nimitz radar, and the E2 could see them. Because they're out there, that radar's on all the time. And the Spy 1 system on an Aegis cruiser is, the state is probably one of the most sophisticated systems in the world.
Well, there's always one organized crime group that sort of dominates the market.
It's just really odd. It was a fun time to be a comedian because you had to weave your way through. For example, Maury Amsterdam, the comic?
I heard his name.
Yeah, he used to be on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Remember the show?
Yes, yeah.
Well, he got famous because he was Al Capone's favorite comedian. Al Capone would always come in to see him.
Wow.
So Al would put him in, like I know him, Al Capone would put him in his clubs, and that's how Maury really got famous because Al Capone loved him and thought he was hilarious, But imagine if you don't make Al Capone laugh. What happens
Jesus
now?
Christ.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, hilarious. But see, like we started this because of comedy clubs. There weren't comedy clubs. There were just either jazz clubs. See, jazz clubs are great for comedians because jazz audiences listen. Rock clubs were bad, and during the late 60s, comedy was kind of, it was the Vietnam War. College kids were very serious, Everybody do those little plays where the stage is dark, and then you light the flashlight under your chin. Stop your war machine, click, and then turn it off. And then the guy would run to another part of the stage, click, stop your war machine, click, and turn. It was all this conceptual kind of. So comedy was really on the back burner. It really took Pryor and Carlin and Robert Klein and those guys to make it really pop again for young people.
What was it before that? I mean, when were the first? They say that Mark Twain was probably the first recognized stand-up comedian because he used to do these monologues and readings of his work.
Oh, sure.
And he would do them in front of a live audience. People would laugh.
Well, stand-up is like jazz. It's a uniquely American art form. Like when you go to England, stand-ups over there maybe come out in a dress and they sing a song and do a skit or they do a little dance. I mean, now they have American-style stand-up. But the idea of, I always like comics who look like normal people but were funny. I was never a fan of the wacky props or the crazy hats. Like Johnny Carson, Pryor, Cosby, Klein, Carlin. These guys look like regular guys you see in the street. And then when they talked, oh, my God, they were really, really funny. That's something that really came later, because most stand-up came out of vaudeville, where you had to. That's what my mother used to say to me all the time when I go outside. You go, no one wants someone that's funny all the time. Why don't you sing a little song, and then you do a little dance, and then you tell a joke? I go, okay, Mom, that's great advice. Thanks, I really appreciate that.
Well, that's what they used to do, right?